I'm back. Rodrance for the Matrixx and Rhodes show. We knew this would happen. The Sam Elliott Power of the Dog fallout was going to emerge. It was going to be huge. And the media would begin its assault on the legendary Sam Elliott. Over 100 films to his credit. Many of which are Westerns. But the media is now going to try to explain. They're going to try to, let's just be real, queer-splain the what this movie is supposed to be, what a Western is supposed to be, what filmmaking is supposed to be. Some media asshole is now going to try to tell Sam Elliott how the fuck movies work. I find that rather interesting. I mean, really? Because if I wanted to know how filmmaking worked, Sam Elliott would be the exact kind of person I would call Mel Gibson, Sam Elliott, Kevin Costner, somebody that's got a lengthy, healthy resume of hits, great movies, great filmmaking, and to try to tell Sam Elliott how a Western is supposed to work is mind-blowing to me. It's mind-boggling. But this is what's going to happen. Sam Elliott went on his rant yesterday and destroyed a brave, stunning, and courageous Power of the Dog, released by Netflix, and he went on an epic rant. And he basically said, look, it seems like illusions of homosexuality all over the place, and from a Western filmmaking standpoint, the movie doesn't make any sense. It artistically, authentically does not feel like a Western. Well, that's not very good for a Western now, is it? But they're going to try to explain, much like they did, how they kept trying to tell us how great and stunning and brave The Last Jedi was. They're now going to do it. By the way, this is an Oscar darling. Okay, the woke critics are going to wrap their loving arms around this movie. It's nominated for 12 Oscars. This is The Guardian. Can someone explain to Sam Elliott what the Power of the Dog is about? And what movies are? Question mark? Are you freaking kidding me? Despite more than 100 screen credits of his own, the actor sounded pretty confused about the basics on Marc Maron's podcast. Are you kidding me? For approximately an hour, the latest episode of Marc Maron's What the Fuck podcast goes absolutely swimmingly. The episode's guest, Sam Elliott, rumbles amicably about all manners of subjects, and he seems to be building a genuine rapport with Maron. And then, almost as closing afterthought, Maron asked Elliott, did you see Power of the Dog? And everything went to hell. Yeah, you want to talk about that piece of shit? Elliott growls. Maron laughs, a stunned, oh no. And then Elliott proceeds to give the weirdest take on the film that may have ever been spoken. Why is it a weird take? Quote, there was a effing full-page ad out in the LA Times, and there was a clip, and it talked about the evisceration of the American myth. And I thought, what the F? What the F? What are all those dancers, those guys in New York that wear bow ties and not much else, question mark. That's what all these effing cowboys in that movie looked like. Running around in chaps in those shirts. There were all these allusions to homosexuality throughout the effing movie. At this point, Maron steps in. I think that's what the movie is about, he suggests, not incorrectly. Well, what the F does this woman from down there, she's a brilliant director, know about the American West? And why the F did she shoot this in New Zealand and call it Montana? That effing rubbed me the wrong way. This guy from the media, here he goes. Honestly, where to start? The primary takeaway, which has already been covered in several thousand headlines elsewhere, I'm sure that is a lie, is that Elliott doesn't seem to care for gay people very much. Towards the end of the WTF episode, he justifies his weird rant by pointing out that he had been spending time in the American West surrounded by families, quote, not men, families, suggesting that this is the true depiction of cowboys that he'd like to see on screen. Why? Because that's accurate. Again, yesterday I explained, I'm in rural Texas. You can blatantly spot a real cowboy versus an urban cowboy. Okay? You can spot those guys a mile away, the authentic cowboys. It is actually something that comes up in conversation here when you see somebody wearing cowboy hats and whatever, their Wranglers, whatever they're wearing, and you can tell that guy's a real cowboy. That motherfucker is a poser, okay? I mean, that's a thing here. And Sam Elliott knows it's a thing. But really, it just sounds like Elliott simply hasn't done his research. The Power of the Dog is a resoundingly queer movie. It's based on a book that was written by a gay man about his experiences in the West, and almost every review written about the film has mentioned the closeted longing at the heart of the film within the first few sentences. In a recent Vanity Fair interview, Benedict Cumberbatch had to defend himself against accusations of appropriation for taking the role. So Benedict is getting hammered because he's not gay and took the role. As an actor, mind you, I do things, I act like other people, but he wasn't supposed to take the role because he's not gay. But maybe Elliott didn't read the issue of Vanity Fair. Who the fuck wants to? Maybe he was put off by all the swans on the cover. Yeah, I wouldn't love that either. His suggestion that the film isn't a true reflection of the West also needs to be picked apart. Oh, you guy from the media is going to explain the West to Sam Elliott. Really? First, it's slightly ridiculous to assume that a force field is in place across the American West that sucks the gayness out of anyone who crosses it. But mainly, even by statistical improbability, he is right. Then what business does he have to say that all films have to be a true depiction of real life? Dude, people that watch Westerns want to watch authenticness in Westerns, I assure you, as somebody who is a massive Western fan. Elliott has racked up more than 100 acting credits across the course of his 55-year career, and it's not an exaggeration as I say some of them have been complete cobblers. Take the 19... Okay, so now he's going to attack films on the resume. Mind you, most of the films he's going to talk about right here are going to be films way back in the day. Take the 1972 film Frogs, which climaxes in a scene where hundreds of frogs stare at a man until he has a heart attack. Or 2018's The Man Who Killed Hitler. And then The Bigfoot, where he plays a man who has to stop a deadly global virus by literally murdering a Sasquatch. Or the cartoon Rock Doll, where he played an old wise yak named Fleetwood Yak. My favorite of Elliott's gripes, though, is that Jane Campion had temerity to shoot a Western in New Zealand. Imagine how furious he's going to be when he hears that Sergio Leone or any of the other spaghetti Westerns, I guess, were shot overseas. Imagine how angry when he realizes that the newest Batman movie is shot in Scotland. Imagine the rage he realizes when Robert Downey Jr. didn't actually go into space for the Avengers movie. Really, all of this newest WTF incident shows is that we should feel bad for Elliott. He's the only film star alive who apparently doesn't know how films work. Oh, yeah, but you, working for The Guardian, is a freaking expert. We knew this would happen. The assault on Sam Elliott is going to come far and wide. Okay, why? Because it's pretty obvious that Sam Elliott has got some conservative values. Okay, some conservative values. He certainly knows he can teach a class on how Westerns should be done. Make no mistake, okay? But these guys in the media, they don't like guys like Sam Elliott very much. They don't like guys like Clint Eastwood very much. I mean, the unadulterated gall to think that Sam Elliott doesn't have the common sense to know that Robert Downey Jr. didn't film Avengers in space. I imagine Sam Elliott would look at you guy and say the Avengers is trash filmmaking. That's my guess, okay? I like it. I'm a comic book genre guy. But I would imagine Sam Elliott would say, I don't have time for this nonsense. Okay? Although he was in a Hulk movie, and he was pretty damn good in it, to be honest with you. So maybe he does like those movies. I don't know. But the point is, the media assault has started. Why? Because this is our woke gay Western film, and everybody, by God, better accept it, or else cancellation. It's trash. This article is trash. This guy is trash. This guy is trash. Trying to go after Sam Elliott, and I mean, all the hit pieces are going to come far and wide. Tell me what you think, Matrixx and Rhodes show fans. Peace. I'm out. Till next time.